Hello everyone and welcome back. A few months ago I put out a couple soccer tutorials that included a couple graphics. I demonstrated how to create this graphic right here, and we did it from scratch in GT Title Designer, and then I showed you how to automate it in Vmix UTC. And we also did this graphic as well in another tutorial. This is a substitution graphic, and then I also showed you this graphic right here. I didn't show you how to make it, but I just kind of showed you the graphic and said this was what I'd started and ended my broadcasts with and what I went to breaks with. Oftentimes the games can end in a tie. For example, here after a regulation 90-minute game, it ended in a 2-2 draw. So sometimes they end that way, but if you're in a tournament like the World Cup, they go to penalty kicks. Well, today what I did is I created this graphic right here. And it's our penalty kick graphic, and we're not going to build it from scratch. What we're going to do is we're going to use this graphic right here as the template for it, and then we're going to make some changes and we're going to come up with our penalty kick graphic right here. As always, I'm going to show you how we create this step by step in GT Title Designer, and then after we do that, I'm going to show you how to control it through Vmix UTC. You may remember this from our previous tutorial. This is actually our main layout. I added a new page, and this is what the penalty kick interface looks like, and I'll go into this in quite a bit of detail later on in this episode. A soccer penalty kick graphic, our topic today on One Man Stream. Okay, and for you folks familiar with the channel, you may recognize this as our Soccer Scoreboard Graphic, and as I said, we did this a few months ago. A lot of these elements we're not going to need, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all the elements that we're not going to include in our penalty kick graphic. So we're going to get rid of the clock and first and second period indicators. We'll get rid of extra time. We'll get rid of the extra time clock. We don't need the red cards or the yellow cards any longer. And the rest of the information we're going to keep, but we're going to move it around a little bit. Now you'll notice right here in the visiting score, home team score, and the dash, if we look up here in layer 4, that's all in one layer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on layer 4, and then I'm going to use my arrow keys on the keyboard, and I'm going to bring that down. And we're going to let that rest about right there. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to put in another layer underneath where it says visiting and home player. I want to put in another layer there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy or make a copy of this background rectangle. So I'm going to click on it. I'm going to right click and copy. And then I'm going to right click and paste. And it brings the other layer right here. So I'm going to click on the blue title bar, and then I'm going to go back to my keyboard and the arrows, and I'm going to bring that down to about right there. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to the menu bar on the left hand side here. I'm going to click on ABC, and I'm going to make me a little text area. And I'm going to center that in the middle. I'm going to center that left to right, and I'm going to change that color to red, and I'm going to change the font to Impact, and we're just going to name this Penalty Kicks. And what I did just then is I clicked on this little button right here. Let's go back and highlight it. I clicked on this little button right here, and then I clicked on, or I activated the check next to shrink. And the reason I did that is in case I come back and I decide to change this to something different, it'll keep it, whatever I type inside this box, it'll keep it inside this box and it won't spill out over the edges. So that's how we did the penalty kicks part. The next two pieces are also text widgets. I'm going to go back up here to ABC again. And I'm going to make a text box right here. Again, I'm going to center it in the middle up and down. I'm going to center it left to right. This time we're going to make the fill color white. I'm also going to use Impact again. And I'm also going to make sure I have the shrink function activated. And then I'm just going to type in here, visiting player 1. And what this is going to do is this is going to reflect who the player is that's actually up to do the penalty kick for each team. So I'm going to right click on this and copy. I'm going to right click and paste. And then I'm going to click on the title bar and then use my right arrow key to move this over to the other side. And then we're going to call this home player 1. And again, what this label is right here is this is going to let us know who is currently doing the penalty kick for each team. Well, the next thing you need is you need a way to indicate, because you're going to have 5 penalty kicks for each team, and then you're also going to need a way to indicate whether they have scored on that penalty kick or not. So what I decided to do is I went over here and I clicked on image, and I downloaded some little dots with no background from the internet. And this one right here is the one that I just used for a placeholder. And I found out through messing around with it that the size that we need is about 60 by 60. And then I brought it over here. And like I said, we're just using this as a placeholder. So what I did is, because we're going to have some automation here in a little bit, I'm going to call this one home white 1, and that's it's home team white indicator 1. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste, and then use my arrows to move it over. And you can see when I copied and pasted it changed this one to home white 2. So we're going to copy and paste. And copy and paste. And it changed that one to home white 4. And then the last one, home white 5. All right, and those are just the placeholders. Okay, so when you make a goal, I'm going to change this white circle to green, and when we miss a goal, we're going to change this white circle to red. Well, how do we do that? Well, I'm going to go back up here to the image again. I'm going to click on that, and this time I'm going to bring in a green circle. Click open, and each one of these circles is just a little bit different in their size. So I had to mess around with them just a little bit to get them to the size that I needed, because what I wanted to do is I want to be able to lay them directly over the white circle. Okay, so obviously 75 is not big enough, so let's go to 85. Almost, but not enough. So we'll go ahead and make it 90. So I think 90 is going to do it for us. Okay, and there we go, and it covers it up just perfect. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on this one, and we're going to go over here where it says image 1, and as you would have probably already guessed, we're going to call this home, and instead of W for white, we're going to go G for green, and then 1. We're going to click on it, we're going to right click, copy, right click, paste. And this is the main reason I use the arrow keys, is I want to make sure I keep everything perfectly in line. And if you move it freehand, it sometimes makes it a little bit tricky. So we're going to copy again, copy and paste. And you can see that this one had changed to HG2 for this one, and then this one changes to HG3. So we'll click on the menu bar, use the arrow, bring that over, right click, copy, right click, paste. It changes it to HG4. right click copy, right click paste, and it changes it to HG5. All right, we're going to do the exact same thing for red. So we're going to go to ABC. We're going to click on the red one we downloaded, click OK. And then let's go ahead and start with this one. Let's start it around 90 and see what that does. That's actually a little bit big. So we'll go 85. And let's use the arrow key. Let's click on image. Use the arrow key, go over just a smidge and go up just a smidge. And I think that's going to do it for us. So 85 was the sweet spot. So let's click on this, go over to where it says image 1. And we're going to call this home red 1. And like I said, these designations over here will all make sense to you in a little bit. So we're going to right click and copy, right click and paste. Again, use the arrow key to readjust it. Right click copy, right click paste. Move it over with the arrow keys. Right click copy, right click paste. And one more time. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go turn off everything except the white position holder. So we're going to turn off all the green ones. And we're going to turn off all the red ones. So what this will look like at home is, say that the first home player comes up and he goes and he does his attempt and he makes it, then we're going to put up a green circle. So at home, it's going to look like this. And then the next player comes up for the home team. Actually, they would alternate back and forth, but in this example, we're just going to do home team. The next player for home team comes up, he shoots, and he's successful. So all I've done is I've made the two circles, the two green circles, HG1 and HG2, I've made those visible. So the next three don't fare quite so well. All of their shots are blocked or they either missed. So player 3 misses, player 4 gets his blocked, player 5 gets his blocked. So it ends up being that these first two were successful and they have green circles. The last three were not successful and they had red circles. I'm not going to do the visiting team because it's the exact same thing. All I did was I took those white ones. I just did a copy and a paste on a white one. I moved it over here and I changed it to VW1 for visiting white 1. And then I just copy and pasted those and reposition them. So I got V white 2, V white 3, V white 4, V white 5. Then I brought up one of the green ones. I brought up one of the green ones and I copy and pasted it, brought it over here over top of the white one. So it was perfectly over top of it. And I changed it to VG1. And then I copied and pasted VG2, VG3, VG4, VG5. And then I brought up the red one. I copy and pasted it, brought it over here, titled it VR1 for visitor red 1. And then I copy and pasted VR2, VR3, VR4, and VR5. And after you do that, it's going to look like this right here. And here's all of the designations over here on the side. The HW1 through HW5, VW1 through VW5, HR1 through HR5, VR1 through VR5, and then HG1 through HG5, and VG1 through VG5. And that is all of these buttons right here, all of these dots right here, and they're perfectly superimposed over each other so that it looks like the white dot is actually changing color when that's not what's happening at all. What's happening is another colored dot is coming over top of it. But in the graphic, it looks like those white dots are changing colors. So there is some automation that I put in, and I'll show you that when we get into Vmix UTC. One other thing I had to mention, I had to change the designation for these two elements right here, because you remember these were home score and visitor score, and I had to change these to home score PK for penalty kick and visiting score PK penalty kick, because when we add the animation in, or I'm sorry, when we add the automation in a little bit later, what was happening is it was adding a score or a goal to the game score instead of tallying the penalty kick. So it was causing the score to change. So that is how we did all of this in GT Title Designer. Now we are going to go to Vmix UTC. And this is the way the layout looks in Vmix UTC. So let's go ahead and bring the graphic in. This is home team player 1, and this is where the players are put in. Visiting player, this is visiting player, this is home player, and then this is the penalty kick score. The visiting team is going to go first in this example. So the first player comes up, he's visiting player 1. His attempt is a score, so we're going to go ahead and click goal. You see the white turns to green, and then it tallies that penalty kick as a score for the visiting team. Now over to the home team, same thing, home player 1. Their attempt is also good, so we're going to click on goal. It turns that white dot to green, and then it gives the home team a point. Back to the visiting team. I have no score here because it can be blocked, it can be a miss, it can be a couple different things, so I just call it no score. Well, this second player, and we go to the drop-down menu, and during the real game we would have the players' names here, but I just have this here for demonstration purposes. This is now visiting player 2 and home player 2. So visiting kicker 2, he misses, and home player 2, he is successful. So like I said, at home it looks like those white dots are turning green, but actually we have a green dot coming in over top of the white. So now let's go to the third player for each team. And you can see how right here those names are changing. So visiting player 3, he misses wide. Home player 3, he's successful, he scores. So now the home team is winning 3-1 on penalty kicks. So let's go to player 4. Visiting player 4, he's successful. Visiting home player 4, he's also successful. We're going to go to player 5, and both players are successful. Okay, now you notice this layout looks a little bit different, and the reason that it does is because on some of these I've gotten rid of the menu bar. You can see here the menu bar is still on these two components. But what I did is if you right click here, you'll get this where it says toggle caption, and it'll bring that caption bar off and on. So after I get everything set up exactly like I want it, then what I do is I toggle that caption bar off, and it takes the caption bar away, and it's a little bit cleaner and a little bit sleeker look. So what I did over here, if we want to clear all the red circles, we can do that by clicking here. We're going to clear all the visitor misses, and those turn white. We're going to clear the visitor score, and those turn white. Or we can do the same thing. I have a clear all home shots on this one. Well, they made all of theirs, but if there would have been some misses, it would clear the misses too. I'm just going to click on this, and it gets rid of all of them. So how are we able to do this? How are we able to push one button and bring up either the red or the green colored element over top of the white element and then add to the score? Well, what we did is we're going to go up here to visitor score, and we're going to click on that. We check this button right here next to +1, and we added a link that says add one VIS for add one score to the visitors. And as you would guess, we did the same thing over here, and this says add one home, or add one to the home score. So let's just take this one for example. I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to click on the settings for this home kicker 1, and this is what we have going on. We're using the set X visible function, and then we're also doing an execute link, and that's happening at the same time. So we're setting X visible on, and this is home kicker. We're setting X visible on for image, which is a source, image 11. So let's see what that is. Sources are at the bottom. 11 is HG1. So when they score, we're going to put up a green symbol, and when they miss, we're going to put up a red symbol. So what we're going to do is when we push this button, we put up HG1, which comes in front of this white HW1 right here. And then it goes to the next piece of script, and the next piece of script is execute link, add 1 home. So what it's going to do is it's going to put up a green circle in the first spot, and then it's going to add 1 score to the home team. We'll go to the no score. Click on the settings, and again this is for player 1, so all the symbols are going to end with the number 1. So we would be working with HW1, HW1 for home white 1, HR1 for home red 1, and HG1 for home green 1, and those are all of our color designations. So for a miss, we're going to put up a red indicator. So this again is set X visible on. The graphic is the soccer penalty kicks graphic, and the title index we're going to use on this one is 21, which is an image. So you would think 21 source would be red for the first indicator, and it is HR1. So we click this one here for, let's go ahead and right click and toggle the caption off again. So if we click this, you can see the green comes up and 1 is added to the home team penalty kick total. And if we click here under home kicker 2, if they're blocked, we click no score, a red indicator comes up, and since they did not score, the score does not change. And that's all we did all the way through here. We just turned on the different elements. On the scorers, we set X visible on for the green elements, and for misses, we set X visible on for the red elements. That's all we did. We did the exact same thing for his visiting player, and I'll show you how we did that for 1. Going to right click toggle, and then we're going to go to settings. This is for a miss. So set X visible on. Again, we're bringing in the input is the soccer penalty kicks graphic, and it's an image which is source 16. So let's look for source 16. Source 16 is VR1, which is visitor red 1, which is what you would expect when the first visitor player kicks a penalty or attempts a penalty kick and misses. You would expect to have a red circle come up, and that's what happens. VR1 brings up a red circle over the white VW1. So let's right click and toggle that back off, and then we're going to right click and toggle the caption for a goal. And on the goal, just like with the home team, we have 2 things happening. We have a green circle coming in the second position. In the first position, because this is player 1. And then we have 1 being added to the visitor total. So let's make sure we did this correctly. Set X visible on. Again, it's the same graphic. It's image source 6. Image source 6 is VG1. So as you would expect, in the first position, player 1 was successful. So we're going to bring in a green circle for the visiting player 1. And then we're going to also add 1 to the visiting team. Where did that come from? Well, if you remember over here, we check this box right here next to the +1, and it's add one VIS. So whenever we run this add one VIS, it's going to add 1 to the visiting score. So let's try that and see what happens. Let's right click and toggle that caption off. Let's hit go. And you can see right here that the green dot comes in and the visiting team penalties scored increases by 1. One thing you may have noticed, I have this button right here, which allows me to go back and forth between my different tabs in my Vmix UTC layout. Well, how do those work? Well, let's right click and toggle, and we're going to click on the settings button here, and the command we're using is just previous page. So all it does is it takes you to the previous page, and in this case the previous page is main. Right here, do the drop down menu, main, penalty kicks, then page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. So you would expect over here under penalty kicks, if we right click on this and bring up the settings menu and look for what that command is, this says next page, which will take us to the penalty kicks page, because as we saw from the drop down menu, that was the second page in the list. So let's turn the toggle back off. Let's click penalty kicks, and it brings us right back to where we started. Now, we did also have the NDI monitor here. We have a separate video for that. So I would suggest, if you have not seen any of my previous videos on how to add NDI monitor to your Vmix UTC production, I would point you toward that tutorial. So we covered a lot of ground today. We built this graphic. Well, actually, we didn't build this graphic. We retrofitted this graphic from another graphic that we had previously built on another tutorial, which was this graphic right here. That's our Soccer Scoreboard graphic, and all we did was change some of the elements so we didn't have to start from scratch, and brought in some new elements to make it work as a penalty kick graphic. Since we didn't do this step by step, I would suggest going to this video right here where we created this Soccer Scoreboard graphic, and it'll show you step by step how to create every one of these elements in this graphic. That will include our tutorial today. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure that you do give us a thumbs up and a like, and make sure that you do subscribe so that you'll be alerted as soon as new videos are posted. Also, if you have a moment, please stop by our website, onemansstream.com. All the graphics, well, I can't say all the graphics, many of the graphics that I've created in the previous tutorials I have there at onemansstream.com. I've had a lot of requests for the graphics as of late, so I went ahead and I put together a little store there. The graphics are very affordable. Most of them are just a couple dollars a piece, or a matter of fact, all of them are just a couple dollars a piece. You can download them directly from that website. Once again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.